This is GBNews. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Well, back to some breaking news in Minneapolis. The Governor Tim Walz, you're seeing live pictures now, says that ICE agents have shot another person in Minneapolis. Of course, this is... there was obviously a shooting a little while, a week or so ago. Now, apparently, a number of masked federal agents surrounded a man who was forced to the floor in a struggle. Then several gunshots were heard before the agents, some of whom were holding guns, move away from the man who can be seen lying on his back on the street. Now, what we're seeing, these are some of the videos, but these are some of the footage that's been seen, but it hasn't been fully verified. But, of course, this comes a few weeks after Renee Nicole Good was shot dead by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. So we're hearing more reports on this. Lizzie Cundy.
Yeah, this is terribly sad, and it's actually sickening to watch. It's very frightening times, Nana. It really is, and I just think
it is, and it shows.
We need to know more details. So,
but it's not just this, like you mentioned before. You know, it's not just attacking and going after what originally was planned for illegal immigrants. It's now everyone is, worried, and they're protesting, and there's no sort of stopping Trump. He's gone rogue, and it's really showing with the polls right now. It's really showing with the protests on, most states right now, and at the same time, there's also been reports that I've recently read about ICE agents that are not properly trained, and it's so easy for them to come out there, and he's now put even more billions into it, and it's just really chaotic. I was on the train the other day, just quickly, and there was a man who was actually, talking, saying, I'm here, and he was actually the train driver, and he had an American accent, and one of the men stood next to me saying, oh, I bet, you never hear that often, but I guess he's just running away from Trump. So, it's happening every day where people are scared of being in America.
We don't know. Look, let's not scare. We don't know what's led up to this shooting. We don't know the details.
It's not just one.
But we need to know exactly what's happened. But as we say, any loss of life is a tragedy.
5-year-olds being detained, 3-year-olds. It's ridiculous what's happening now with ICE. It's actually uncontrollable. This is not a democracy. This is more like him being a dictator, an authoritarian state. It's really, really wrong.
Well, with all respect, though, it's the agents who are going out doing this whilst they are under instruction to round up all illegal migrants, which I don't object
to. Like a militia.
I think if you've come to the country illegally and you're working illegally and you're doing things illegally, then you should be removed from the country in a respectful but fair manner. Look, you have broken the law. You've broken the rules. Yeah, but I don't think they shouldn't be going around shooting people unnecessarily. But remember, it's a different environment. Everyone's got guns there.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether this person had a gun or drew a gun. We don't know the details.
Actually, yeah, and as I said, we don't know what's the run-up for this, event happening. We don't know what was going on. And the fact is, as you said, Nana, yes, that unfortunately people have guns in America. It makes it very, very frightening.
But then they should be trained.
But they cannot be... Donald Trump is trying to put his country first and stop illegal immigration the best way.
He's not putting his...
He has done it, though. I mean, even this is... I mean, like, killing people is wrong. Nobody agrees with that. But... with this whole ICE thing that he's set up, it has stopped illegal migration. Nobody wants to come in there illegally. And I get it. You wouldn't if you thought that there was that you'd be rounded up and taken out of the country.
It's not what we've come to. There is no such thing as people are not going to come in. If anything, it's just going to cause more chaos and it's going to cause more gang. And as far as I'm concerned, I think they're just going to find better ways and easier ways of doing it, because they're not just going after people who they think that are illegal. That person that you mentioned, Renee, that was a white Christian American mother, OK, regardless, and she had absolutely nothing on her to even, make that sort of move for the ICE agent to do that.
All right, but now it's time for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should the Prime Minister cancel the King's State visit? Now, the Prime Minister's condemnation of Donald Trump's remarks about the war in Afghanistan are his strongest public criticism of the President yet. And it's not the first time the Prime Minister has felt the need to stand up for the British military. But as tensions escalate, could this put pressure on the Prime Minister to cancel the King's US state visit? What we've got a clip of Keir Starmer talking tough. Well, so for the Great British Debate, I'm asking, should the Prime Minister cancel the King's state visit. Well, joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, also broadcaster and commentator Fahima Mohammed. Now, I played the clip in my niggle, so hopefully you saw that. Keir Starmer standing, talking tough, as though he's going to do something, because he was disgusted by the words of Donald Trump, who did not acknowledge that the British soldiers, or NATO, he called it NATO, that some of us stepped back from the front line, but as we know, many NATO allies stepped forward. There may have been some that stepped back, but the UK wasn't one of them, Lizzie Cundy.
Yeah, and those remarks Donald Trump said were disgraceful, they were insensitive, and they were wrong. And as someone that works with the veteran charities, and sadly a friend of mine, their son, is no longer with us because he served in Afghanistan, I found them deeply offensive. And Starmer was right to come out and say what he said. But my thought is, words are cheap, Keir Starmer. How about you actually do something and actually do help the veterans? Because at the minute he isn't, Nana. He's quite happy for our veterans being taken to court, like with Northern Ireland, and he actually is more happy with housing migrants in hotels with our veterans on the streets.
Well, just to let the viewers know, I mean, if you're listening on radio, you won't be able to see this, but these are live pictures in Minneapolis, because there has been, as we understand it, they've just vanished as I was speaking. As we understand it, there's been another incident with an ICE agent, but we'll bring you all of those details and keep you up to date on that. But we're talking about Keir Starmer, and whether... I'll be honest, I felt his comments, whilst they were needed, the words he said were needed, I just felt that they were disingenuous, simply for the fact that actions speak louder than words. Yep. And right now, his party are currently removing legislation that protect our armed forces if in combat something happens and they come back to the UK. Decades later, they can potentially be prosecuted. So if he's that serious, why would he not step in and ensure that wasn't the case? Fahima Mohammed.
I do feel that Trump responds to strength, not politeness. So obviously words also do matter, and showing that is not hostility. It's showing that it actually is part of the alliance, and it's not going to really create any sort of like disarmament or allyship where it's going to decrease negotiation or intelligence and things like that. So it does seem right to take a stance. But I do agree with you, Lizzie, with regards to taking much more action with regards to helping the veterans, whether it's mental health, housing, and the respect for them completely. So, again, something like this needs to be raised further than just those words, but actually acknowledgement and recognition for the veterans, and to actually bring them at the forefront, and what they think and what their thoughts should matter. I
mean, Harry spoke up as well. I don't have any time for Prince Harry, even though he did the Invictus thing, only because I always feel that there's always a PR angle on it. Yeah. I don't mean to be unkind to him, but you can understand why I would say that. Yeah. Because, and even those at the Invictus Games are just like, oh, no, could you sort of back off a bit? Well, not on this particular occasion, but in the past they've been concerned that it will be used as some sort of PR thing.
And Harry wasn't exactly helpful in his book, Spare, naming how many of the Taliban that he'd killed. But, look, I think we know that Trump likes the headlines, Nana, and in some respects, he said that to make us talk about the veterans. Look, he's told that we need to put more into our military spending. Our armed forces couldn't even feel...
Seriously, Lizzie?
No, I'm just trying to say that Trump likes a headline. What he said is totally wrong, but what he could be saying is, talk about your veterans. Keir Starmer's there. He's being two-faced, because what's he actually done for our veterans? He's done nothing. They're on our streets. He's putting migrants in hotels, and our veterans are sleeping homeless, some of them. Look, some of them could be prosecuted, which I think is absolutely horrific, and we need to do more. He doesn't help with their housing, they've got the wrong equipment, and yet he can stand there and say that to Trump. Well, actually, actions are stronger than words. His words are worthless to me. I'm sorry.
I get what you're saying, but, we can't just rely on personal opinions here. This is about two countries who are allies, and we need to also show strength. And if Starmer is speaking what is rightly needs to be said, we have to give credit where credit is due. But yes, it does need to be followed by policy and actions for the veterans. But I don't think Trump, in the back of his mind, is doing this and wanting headlines and also to bring the veteran situation and support at the forefront. Absolutely not.
Well, we need
it's
our
not
king,
that.
and our king is very diplomatic, and I think he will really help things. That was
Hopefully.
wrong of Trump to say. We'd love an apology from Trump.
Well,
but what I don't
Washington-
want from Keir Starmer...
Washington is calling for an apology.
It's cheap words, because we need action, and he hasn't helped our veterans.
There are two sides, of course, because he was wrong, completely wrong, about the UK. And when he said some people... But he used the word NATO, so he didn't specifically say the UK. And NATO is quite a big organisation, isn't it? And there are many, many countries. So I doubt all of the NATO countries, as we know, they didn't all step forward to help.
Yeah, but
so
veterans
hang on, let me get to the end. So they didn't step... Not all the countries stepped out to help. So he used the phrase NATO. So that is insulting to those NATO allies who came in and were on the front line. But he has one half of it right, that there are some NATO allies that didn't step far forward. So there is a slight truth to what he's saying, but it's deeply insulting to the ones who did. So I don't really... You know, and I do think that perhaps he does need to look at this and have a rethink and perhaps acknowledge... that there needs to be some acknowledgement because people lost lives, and we just need that, because Donald Trump actually is somebody who really cares about his veterans. The veterans from in America, they are treated like absolute heroes. You can't fault him on how he ensures that those who went to war are treated respectfully, and that's why I have an argument with Keir Starmer, talking tough, but then if you look at his actions, they're different. Donald Trump may say those things, but look at the way he treats his veterans. I
totally agree with you, Nana. And one thing Trump does do is look after his own people. That's the first order of any government.
Think so.
His own veterans.
His own veterans, he does. And Keir Starmer can say that, can say those words and look all tough man and strong, but he doesn't do it.
We have a different system here. We do have a different system here, and we do operate differently. And President and Prime Minister, you know, they have different sort of, you know, accountability, responsibility, and also the fact that they can put themselves forward in certain ways. We have had, you know, the military in the US go and burn themselves because at the end of the day, they don't agree with the government. We've had major stories to say that they have actually protested on the streets because even ICE is not trained properly. And we're hearing day after day now, more regular, as to how it is been, you know, put forward on the streets, where we don't, you know, the people of the US do not really now approve of what's happening and how Trump is holding his people, and he's not caring whether it's veterans or whether it's everyday people.
I don't think you can.
I don't think you say that.
I don't think you can. I'm not sure that
I've just said it.
Well, I'm not sure that generalisation is fair. But I do hear you. There will be elements where people aren't looked after. But in this country, I think it's particularly bad.
Yeah.
And I just find I would like to see our government doing more to help our veterans. And you know, I think Donald Trump does give the sense that heroes of war are treated with more respect than in this country. I think they are, and that's all I see. But he was wrong.
And let's be factual. Can we be factual? We have a Prime Minister that would rather spend more on welfare than on warfare, and we need to raise our military, what we're putting in and helping them. And we are now living in a very, very scary, dangerous world.
All right, can I just ask you then? Can I ask you then? Should that state visit be cancelled unless Donald Trump makes some sort of acknowledgement or some sort of apology, or you know, just something, Lizzie?
No, I don't think it should be cancelled. I think we need the King to go there. I said he's a great diplomat, and we need to secure the good special relationship with the USA. We need them, and it's important. So no, not to cancel.
I think you can. It's just ceremonial, and like I said before, it's not going to really, you know, sort of take away the ties that they already have. And unless, of course, he does apologise, then that could mean fair enough. But if not, then we also have to stand our ground and show our strength. And also, that is not going to be hostility. It's going to be in line and the framework of how allies and, you know, people like us with them operate.
Donald Trump has doubled down, though. He's doubled down on his comments.
Well, Washington is calling for an apology. So until we get that, I think, you know, it is really... And we wanted to listen to the Chagos Islands, we need to listen to the veterans and how they're speaking.
Oh, absolutely.
And they have been coming on there and actually completely going to be feeling disrespectful and disrespected. And if we want to even build on the military, and if we're going to treat them like that now, what hope do we have for the future of building new military if this is what we're going to give them the respect?
Well, hold on. Let's Keir Starmer let's put his words into action, and that he hasn't done that. Let's see if he does.
Let's see.
Yes, that'll be interesting to see whether Keir Starmer does indeed do something about that and demand his apology and follow his tough words with tough action. But I don't think the tough action should be giving away the Chagos Islands, because I think that's absolute madness.